Stocks taking a dive just one day after Wall Street's historic rally following President Trump's move to pause most reciprocal tariffs for 90 days. The S&P 500 tumbling 3.5%, the Dow falling more than 1,000 points, and the Nasdaq was down 737 points on the day. Democrats have been critical of the rapidly changing tariff policy, some even calling for an investigation into potential insider trading by top officials before Wednesday's stock market surge.
Anybody who traded in the last 48 hours and made an incredible amount of money prior to this tariff announcement, who sits right there in that house, needs to answer for it.
Today's big drop comes after the White House said the tariffs imposed on China add up to 145%, not the 125% it previously indicated, which did not include the levies of 20% tied to the fentanyl emergency. And Canada still has a total of 35% tariffs. For Mexico, it's 25%. The universal tariff of 10% is still in effect for other countries, and the 25% tariff on both auto imports as well as steel and aluminum has not been paused either.
Canada now hoping to make a deal with the U.S. to end the so-called trade war.
Caroline Elliott joins us live in Toronto with new details from Canadian officials. You sat down with one of Canada's leaders this afternoon. Caroline, what does he see happening next?
Yeah, Don, Scott, we sat down with Doug Ford, who is the Premier of Ontario, earlier today, which is like a governor in the U.S., and he has had a lot to say about tariffs in the last few weeks. Now, today, he tells us that Canada would drop all tariffs against the U.S. if the U.S. agrees to do the same. In fact, Ford told us that Canada wouldn't even mind going first. That is only if, again, the U.S. will follow suit. Now, of course, we know Ford says Canada could be ready to sit down at the negotiating table in the next couple of weeks. Right now, Canada is full swing in campaign mode. The country will have a federal election in just a few weeks, so negotiations would likely have to wait until afterwards. But if these negotiations do move forward, Ford says the U.S. and Canada should consider a new trade deal, this time without Mexico.
If we have to go first and, President Trump follows a couple days later, that's not a problem, as long as we get back to certainty for people's lives, the markets, businesses, everyone. We just want to have a fair trading relationship. If it means doing a USCA deal opposed to a USMCA deal, so be it. I think that would actually be better.
And after Trump's announcement yesterday, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney also said on X that he hopes the U.S. and Canada can sit down and make a deal. That's because as of right now, those tariffs on steel, aluminum, and auto still in place here in Canada and still affecting the economy here. Don, Scott.